Hi there, and today we're here in the Performance Centre at Howley Hall Golf Club taking a look at the new Cobra SZ irons. Hi there, Ryan Rastall here for Golfshake.com. I'm PGA professional here at Howley Hall Golf Club in Leeds and equipment expert for Golfshake.com. As I've said, taking a look at the new SZ iron range from Cobra. And if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button, see loads more content about the latest clubs to help you play more and play better. So let's go straight into the tech. Okay, so these irons are new for the 2020 season, have some of the technologies that we've seen before in Cobra irons, but some really nice additions as well. So I've got the variable and one length option here. Obviously in pretty much every Cobra iron now, there is that one length option available. So in terms of other tech, so we're seeing PowerShell Sole, which we saw last year, which basically scallops some of it away in that back edge and the toe area there to really help with the turf interaction of the iron, get more weight lower in the head as well and help you to get that ball launching. Now, Cobra have used other technologies in this iron to help you do that too. So you'll notice in the longer ones, in that top edge of the club, so in that top line, there is a carbon fiber section in there. Now, it's the first time I've seen that in an iron before, and Cobra have used it basically to take some of the weight out of the top of the golf club. So in doing that, they can use that weight elsewhere in the head, generally lower down, to even further help you with launching the ball and getting it in the air a bit more. Now, it is a little bit different in terms of its look when you sit it down in the playing position, but I'm sure it's something that you can all sort of come to terms with and get used to the more that you play with the iron. Now, we've seen the milled face as well on both of these irons, which really adds that premium kind of element to it as well. But really this iron is aimed at the person who wants maximum forgiveness, wants to try and get that ball up in the air a little bit more and really help with distance too. Like I say, I've got both variable and one length here for us to try. So I'm going to take a hit with them both and see exactly how they perform. So to start with, we're going to go with one length. Okay, so we've got the 6 iron here. We're going to try the 6 iron and the wedge in this iron just to really show you how they compare in both one length and variable, but also how they compare in distance and launch, etc. as well. So what we'd expect to see with the one length in the wedge, particularly being that bit longer, 6 irons are pretty similar. So everything in one length is built to standard 7 iron length. So this 6 iron is ever so slightly shorter than the variable that I'm going to test. But we'll have a look on the Trackman. We're using Trackman 4, Titleist Pro V1 golf ball. So we should see a really good separation there between obviously 6 iron and wedge, but also variable and one length. So let's go hit a few. So like I say, one length to start with in a 6 iron. This 6 iron does have that carbon fiber section in the top. So it is a little different to look at when you sit it behind the ball. It's not something that you'll be used to, but like I say, it does kind of marry in well with the colour on the top of the iron there and doesn't really get too lost in that. But when you look at some of the drivers available at the moment with different colours and different patterns and textures on the top there, really a top edge of an iron is very small in comparison. So let's hit a few. So it looks good behind the ball. Like I say, in one length, I have tried one length clubs before and really like them. So don't really feel that uncomfortable with the 6 iron being slightly shorter. But let's hit 2 or 3 shots and see how it performs. Straight away feels like it's coming off the face quite quickly. Certainly quicker than my 6 iron would when I'm hitting it. So let's have a bit of a look again. Feels good though, really nice. It's quite lightweight, I would say. The shaft is fairly light. It's easy to swing. Bit of a miss hit there, but still maintaining a decent distance. Let's hit one more. I mean, that is very, very quick off the face. But yeah, feels great. It's coming off quick and very forgiving as well. I've hit a couple of, certainly not center strikes there. So we'll have a bit of a look at that. Let's try the variable as well. And then we'll take a little bit of a look at the numbers and see how they compare, okay? So again, same look to the head with that carbon fiber section in the top. Slightly different color badge. This is yellow as opposed to the blue, which we see in the one length. And like I say, it's ever so slightly, it's sort of half an inch longer than the 6-iron that we've used in one length. So let's just hit a few. I mean, the ball speed with these is scary. I mean, it comes off very, very fast. And for a 6-iron, I mean, the sort of distances I'm getting here are significantly longer than I would with my own. But good looking club behind the ball. And like I say, very similar to the one length, feels very forgiving. You can tell it's coming off the face seriously quick as well. Again, miss hit, pretty straight. It's gone a decent distance again. Let's just hit one more. Again, a little bit out the toe, but it's come out high and straight. And it's gone nearly 200 yards with a 6-iron, which is very good. I mean, like I say, the forgiveness in these irons is really up there with anything I've hit, to be honest. They feel nice and soft off the face. You've definitely got that confidence as you sit them behind the ball. They've got quite a big footprint on the iron there. The top edge isn't really that noticeable, but performance-wise, we can see they're coming off very quickly. Yes, they are quite strong in loft. I've just measured the 6-iron here, and it's about 24 degrees, which is very strong for a 6-iron. But I guess with having so much mass down the club head there, the lofts have to be stronger in order to cope with that. Otherwise, we just hit them straight up in the air. So, but that being said, it may mean that when we get to the top end of the set there, so 5-iron, 4-iron, because of how strong the lofts are, you may not need an iron at that sort of loft, because you may go into a hybrid or a 5-wood or something like that, and you're going to get quite a lot of crossover there with longer irons. So that's something to bear in mind as well, because of the strong loft and the strong flight we're getting with a 6-iron here. It may mean that 5 and 4 really you don't need. You might just slot a hybrid in there instead. So we are going to hit some with the wedge with both of these as well. So we're going to go with one length to start with. So now we get into this shorter club, we don't have that carbon fiber section in the top, so it looks a bit more traditional in terms of shape of the golf club. Still got the power shell sole on it as well, still plenty of weight, low in the head, but I guess with a wedge, because we're hitting the ball quite high anyway, we don't need that lower CG. Slightly higher in a wedge is good to kind of help with the flight a little bit. So in one length, like I say, it's going to be 7-iron length, so we'd expect a fair bit of speed and a fair bit of distance with a wedge. So let's hit a few. So again, slightly different to, if you've never used one length before, I recommend you go and give it a go, because a lot of people's preconceptions of it are that it's going to be strange to hit clubs that are all the same length, but once you've hit 3 or 4 shots, you kind of don't really think about it. These look great behind the ball. They come off the face nicely. I would say with the more lofted clubs in one length, you tend to get a much higher ball flight. So when we're comparing ball flights of a wedge of a variable to a one length, sometimes you'll see a one length does come off higher, just purely because with that longer shaft, we're getting so much more club head speed, and obviously the loft is the same, so we're getting more speed and the same loft, so we're generally going to get a bit more height and spin. But the way that Cobra try and combat this a bit is changing the hosel lengths in the club. So you'll see that in the 6-iron versus the wedge, so the 6-iron's got quite a short hosel, wedge is much longer. Cobra do that to try and rebalance that a little bit, so help with launching the longer irons higher, because obviously in one length, as we decrease loft, the length stays the same, so they can be a bit tough to get in the air. So that shorter hosel means that they're going to be easier for you to get that ball in the air a little bit. And then in the wedge, that longer hosel really makes it easier to keep that ball flight down a touch. So all of those things are helping to hit that ball on the trajectory that we're looking for. So now that we've used the 1-length wedge, let's go in and hit a few with the variable as well. So let me just change the Trackman over here. And we'll hit a few with that. So this is variable length, so this is more the traditional sort of wedge length that we would associate with. Again, these come with a slightly thicker grip on all of these, so they're not a standard size grip. They're probably in between standard and mid-size really, which, having spoken to the guys at Cobra, that tends to be, when they're doing custom sets of clubs, thicker grips tend to be the norm. So they kind of put them on a standard now. So this grip, I think it's a lambkin grip that it comes with Connect in the top, is ever so slightly thicker than your standard one. Again, it looks very similar to the 1-length, but in that traditional length of shaft. Some of you may feel that a little bit comfortable, so more comfortable, sorry. So let's hit a few more with that. But feels good off the face, feels very solid, almost, you know, kind of like the more bladed kind of wedges and clubs, really. You can't necessarily tell that there's a big cavity behind there helping you out a little bit, but yeah, again, feels really good. Very similar in terms of feel to the 1-length, but quite different in the way that they play because of the shaft length. So we're going to take a bit of a look at the numbers on the Trackman and see how one performed against the other. So to start with, we'll take a bit of a look at the 6-irons that we hit. So to start with the 1-length, decent heights, you know, peaking sort of between 30 and 40 there. So average distance between about 190 when it's actually hitting the ground, and just less than 200 total distance, which is pretty long for a 6-iron for me. I mean, a good 6-iron in my set generally is about 180. Yeah, I mean, that's longer than what I'd expect, but as we've spoken about, the loft is a bit stronger, and the head is a bit more forgiving and designed to come off that bit quicker than the sort of forged, more bladed kind of model that I'm used to. But if we look at that in the variable length, we'll see even more. I mean, the height is slightly higher in the variable length, which we would normally expect. 1-length, as I've alluded to earlier, the longer clubs do tend to get more difficult to flight, really. But if we look at this one here, we can see it's peaking just slightly higher than that, but sort of maybe even getting up to over 40 there. And then we can see distance-wise, it's just stretched out that bit. So, you know, we've got 1-length there versus variable. So the variable just goes that little bit longer, getting a bit more ball speed and a bit more distance. But, you know, that might just be me. You know, that might not be the same for everybody. Now, when we go into the wedge, that's where we see a bit of a difference. So let's go to 1-length to start with. We can see it peaks quite high. Yeah, so the flight is much higher with a steeper angle of descent. You know, the ball speeds and the distances, so we're just getting total distance just less than 140 there, so we're landing 135 to 1 and just less than 140 as a total distance. Now when we look at variable, because the flight, as we see here, is ever so slightly lower, so you see it peaks a little bit lower there, and the distance is that little bit more because of that. So we're seeing probably about a 5-yard difference between the wedge in 1-length to variable length. And I think that's purely down to obviously the length of shaft in one length makes it launch higher and maybe go, spin a bit more and go a little bit shorter. But we're talking 5 yards. It's neither here nor there, but the ball flight will be very different between the two. So if you're a player who maybe struggles to get the ball in the air with your shorter clubs, one length may well help you do that. And certainly when we look at people hitting, pitch shots and bunker shots and things like that using one length, because of that extra length in the shaft, it does give you more club head speed. So generally it makes you hit through the sand more and get the ball out easier. And same with pitching. I mean, people decel on pitching a lot, and with that longer shaft can really help that. But understanding the difference between those two could help you to obviously play a little bit better. But that's something that a custom fitter would absolutely do for you. But overall, both these irons great, really forgiving. I mean, I've hit some pretty average strikes there, really, and we're still getting good distance on it, decent height, and they're pretty consistent. Feel-wise off the face, like I've said, you'd be hard pushed, if you're blindfolded and hitting a much smaller, more compact iron and these, you'd be hard pushed to tell the difference. I think they do feel really good off the face and not like a big chunky cavity. Now, like I've said, that top line with the carbon fiber insert in them, some people may not like that. Some of your purists out there might not. To be honest, it didn't really put me off at all. As I've said before, some of the weird and wonderful drivers you get these days compared to the look at the top of that iron, really, there's not really that much to get over, I don't think. But definitely, as I always say, try these clubs out, go and get fitted properly, and actually see what benefit one length or variable is going to have for your game. But all in all, very, very good sets of irons. So there we have it. That's our quick look at the new Cobra SZ, or SZ if you're American, iron. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed testing them. It was really good to hit them. If you have any more questions about custom fitting or about Cobra in general, please leave us some comments below. Ask away. I'm here to help you. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you all very, very soon.